Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Hot for Teacher. This is episode number 16, and it has been what feels like a long time since we got to do an episode. Normally, we alternate, theoretically, between Hot for Teacher and Office Hours. We go back and forth between the two, but we've had a month, basically, of so much GM-related stuff. Blue Jay doing her thing with Blue Jay World, and talking to Andrew about playtesting, and then regular office hour. It's been real busy, so we've been tangled up in GM stuff. And honestly, my whole life right now has been Game Master overload. So it's nice for me to have this opportunity to take a minute to step back and hang out with you and answer some questions. So Hot for Teacher, if you're familiar with Office Hours, Hot for Teacher is formatted more or less the same way. Every time we do an episode, we talk about 3 different questions from you, the audience. Some of these questions are anonymous. Some of these questions are from specific people. I mean, they're all from specific people, but some people have chosen to stay anonymous and some have not. They come from people of all genders and experiences and relationships, and they're not just about what we would typically assume to be a relationship, right? It's not just about romantic relationships. They're not just questions about boyfriends and girlfriends and NB friends. These are questions about all kinds of relationships. And hopefully I can impart some advice to the specific people asking questions. And hopefully honestly, my real goal here is just to get you thinking about the ways in which you have relationships with other people, the kinds of things that you think about and do in those relationships. I'm not here to change your mind about anything. I'm not here to fundamentally blow your mind about any kind of relationship stuff. I just want to chat about things. So don't consider this episode or any episode of Hot for Teacher to be the be all and end all of advice on these things. Listen to yourself, talk to your friends, have conversations with the people you are having relationships with. That's my prime advice. So let's get into it. Let's answer a question. I'm going to move out of the way here. Let me just shimmy my little advisory butt over here because I don't want to be in the way of question number 1. Question number 1 comes to us from Anonymous. There it is. And Anonymous asks, any advice for when your significant other or someone you're very close to is obviously upset over something, usually for something you did, and they refuse to tell you what the problem is, stating only that you should figure it out on your own. So this is the I think, sadly common situation in which 2 people are interacting and one person can perceive that the other person is upset or hurt, and they say, hey, what's wrong? And the person who is hurt or upset says, figure it out yourself, or you should already know, or... So I think everybody pretty much who has ever had a relationship has been in this position. Once or twice. Either you're the person asking or you're the person hurt. We've all, honestly, let's be real, we've all been probably on both sides of that. On one hand, maybe we've done something boneheaded and we've hurt someone's feelings. Or maybe we've done something we don't even realize is going to hurt someone. We do it. We don't even know we've done it. They're upset. But maybe we don't have a handle on what it is that we did, or how we can do better, or how we can fix it, or what. We know that something is wrong. We know that it's probably our fault. Maybe they've told us it's our fault. But we want to ask, right? We want to know more information. So we say to them, what did I do? What happened? Because that makes sense, and communication between people is good, right? It's a really, really shitty place to be in when you know you fucked up and you can't understand how or why you did the bad thing. And when we feel that way, when we are in that position, that can manifest as anxiety. It can manifest as confusion. right? We can feel self-loathing. We can be like, I don't know what it is that I did wrong, and I hurt somebody, and I'm a terrible person, right? It can also manifest as anger. This can turn into, I know I did something wrong. What was it? Oh, you're not going to tell me? Well, you're a jerk. Now I'm angry at you, right? It can manifest in a lot of different ways, and none of them are a fun place to be. I think often in this position, that whole like pushing of someone to that place can feel like a conflict in and of itself, where all you want to do is just like make it better, and all they seem to want to do is make you suffer. So they're hurting and you're hurting, and nobody seems to know the right way to get out of it because you both want different things. And obviously, he says, putting up a false premise, obviously, if they would just stop being so stubborn and vindictive and just go into detail about what you did, then you could just stop doing it, right? That'd be the solution. So you're in the right and they're jerks, and too bad. That's a shame that you're with that. No, it's not. It's not that simple. It's not always like that because this stuff tends to be more complicated than it appears. Now, okay, let's be real. There is a chance, obviously. I hope this chance is small. There's obviously a chance that this person is being a mean, vindictive jerk. They are withholding something they know you need to feel better to try to punish you for whatever you did. There could be a mean-spirited aspect here. There is a chance, hopefully small, that they are not as upset or hurt as they put on, and they think that behaving in an emotionally punitive manner gives them the upper hand. It has given them control over the situation again, and now they are making you feel bad in a related way to the way you did to them. Feeling like they have the upper hand because of that withholding is shitty, but they're not wrong, right? And that's frustrating. Being withholding like that is actually a really good way to make someone feel bad or exacerbate their guilt or hurt them or push them away. And I sincerely hope that they're not being like that. If this seems to be the case, if it seems like they're doing this mean-spiritedly, if they're being jerks to you about this, it's reasonable to get out of that relationship. But let's assume that they're not doing this as an act, right? I think that we kind of have to assume with people that we are close to, people we care about and who care about us, we have to assume they're acting in good faith and they're being honest with us. They're not being jerks. If we are in relationships with people who are lying to hurt us, we have a bigger problem than this, don't we? So let's assume it's not an act. Let's assume that. So what we can do instead now as a group is talk about why someone who has hurt feelings might say something like, you should already know why I'm upset, or it's important that you figure it out yourself. So from their perspective, having someone do something that hurts your feelings, especially someone who's close to you, can be kind of a harsh surprise. It can sting pretty bad, even if it's something small. I think part of why it can be so surprising and like such a harsh feeling is that there is a ton of really weird cultural baggage around the idea that if someone loves us, they could never possibly hurt us, right? In popular media, in culture, I promise I'll never hurt you. I swear I would never do anything to hurt you. I'll never upset you. I'll always take care of you. That is a pretty common flag for I really, really care about you, but it's such fucking horseshit. It's such a false promise. Like, people misstep and they fuck up and they hurt each other all the time. It just happens. And most of the time, in point of fact, I think we do it by accident. We're not psychics, right? Like you can hurt people without even meaning to. And when someone hurts our feelings, when we didn't expect them to do that, we might react with shock and want to withdraw. And that's okay, right? Like, withdrawal can mean we don't want to talk about the thing that hurt us. We're probably feeling hurt that the person we trusted doesn't even seem to realize or know what they did, and that in and of itself can hurt. Okay, so let's say I accidentally mail your dog to Kentucky, and I didn't realize that you didn't want Fido to take a trip to the Appalachians, and now you're all mad at me about something, and so all I want to do is fix it. So I ask you over and over, hey, what did I do? Why are you mad? Why are you so upset? What's wrong? What did I do? And maybe you're going to want to yell at me about how expensive postage is, or how dangerous it is to be a little schnauzer all alone in Louisville. But maybe even thinking about Fido alone out there in the mean streets of Kentucky is too painful for you to talk about or to engage. Or maybe you're just so angry with me for being totally out of touch with your needs that it hurts you to be reminded how out of touch I am. The thing here is that what did I do and why are you mad are requests for work, right? They're requests for emotional energy, emotional labor, and yes, we're asking necessarily so that we can make sure not to FedEx your pets anywhere next time, but we're also making a demand on someone who is already vulnerable and hurt. Please take time and energy to explain to me why you are upset is an ask. And sometimes in the moment, when you're all mad about your missing dog, you don't want to answer that question in the moment. You're too close to it. So, here is something I would like to suggest for everyone to try to internalize when you get into this situation with someone. On either side. If someone hurts you, if someone does something that hurts your feelings, and you think they should be less stupid, and they should have known not to do the bad thing, remember, please, nobody can read minds. And what's obvious and clear to you might not be to someone else. And sometimes we can fuck up by accident. And this doesn't have to be huge. It can be small, right? I think we've all had these conversations before. A good example of a small one of these is you're having a conversation with somebody casually about movies that are coming out. And they say, hey, I saw that Appalachian Dog Bastard 2 is coming out. That seems like a cool movie. And you're like, yes, that does seem like a cool movie. I've heard this about it. Yes, we agree. Appalachian Dog Bastard 2 is going to be a rockabilly hit. A month goes by. Your friend goes without you to see Appalachian Dog Bastard 2. They tweet, man, Appalachian Dog Bastard 2 is a rock and roll cavalcade of excitement and fun. And you're like, hey, I thought we were going to go see that together. I'm upset and hurt. And you subtweet them. Or you're like, man, I wish somebody would go see Appalachian Dog Bastard 2 with me. Or whatever. And you feel, but you never agreed to go see it together. You can feel salty about it. You didn't bring it up. It didn't happen as a conversation. There was no consented agreement, but it just didn't occur. This person did not read your mind. You didn't tell them that. And you can get upset and maybe they notice you're upset. Maybe you need some time before you can tell them hey, I really wanted to see that movie with you. And then you can agree to just be better about communicating in advance in the first time, but it's okay to just be like a little like hurt about it for a minute. But I think what we should do when we are hurt, and this is something that I try to apply to every person that I know. Do not apply this protocol to like the internet at large or strangers or whatever, but like Hanlon's razor is a really nice thing to apply to the people around you. Assume that your friends and loved ones are stupid before you assume they are malicious. And by stupid, I actually mean like forgetful, or they didn't prioritize things the way that you did, or whatever. Like just assume they're not trying to hurt you, because that can be a really nasty place to be mentally and emotionally. Assuming that people actively are trying to like fuck up your feelings can lead you to a bad place. So before you get to that, well, you should have known, or you figure it out, because those are very aggressive ways to explain those things. Try instead to say, I'm sorry that you're feeling confused or worried about me right now, but that's not my responsibility to manage those feelings. I'm upset and I'm not comfortable explaining my feelings to you right now. You can just say that. You can just say like, yo, I don't feel like talking about this right now. I'm upset. I'm bummed. I feel shitty. So just say that. And if you're on the other side, it can be really hard to deal with that guilty, frustrated, maybe like angry feeling too, depending on how you've been socialized and a bunch of other shit about how you handle your emotions. I empathize. It sucks when all you want to do is make things right and like probably like alleviate your own feelings of guilt because you feel bad and you don't want to feel that way either. But it's not about you. But I get that you just want to like fix it. But respecting people's space is really important. The bigger picture here is knowing how we can navigate conflict together without simultaneously having to give up our right to be upset. What matters most here is the idea that you and the people that you are close to fundamentally want to work together in so much as your relationship matters to both of you. If someone hurts you and you don't want to deal with their shit right now, that's fine. And it's okay. You don't have to deal with anybody's shit if you don't want to. But eventually, you have to choose either to work with them to get through things, or you need to not be in that relationship. You will eventually have to make one of those two decisions. If you hurt someone, let them be hurt. Let them have space to be mad or sad or upset or whatever. That's okay. Doesn't mean you're a bad person or the relationship is necessarily over because you can't solve the puzzle of how you fucked up. Treating the people close to us with humanity and only letting actual crises be a crisis is a really good way to navigate stuff together. I feel bad, but it's not the end of the world. Getting used to the people around you being upset about stuff is like a pretty good survival mechanism. I am sad about shit all the time. And if the people that I was close to, if my friends, my loved ones were like, Adam has to be happy all the time or something is terribly, terribly wrong, it's impossible. It would never happen. I get angry and sad about stuff constantly. The world is a complicated place and it's okay to feel bad. But unless something is an actual crisis, unless something really, really bad has happened, me being upset, even me being upset with someone that I care about, isn't the end of the world and we'll get over it. I have committed with them to work through difficult stuff. So to answer Anonymous's question, really, to like kind of sit down with this question and properly answer it, what can you do if someone you care about is giving you the whole, you should know what you did angle? Practice saying things like, I hear that you're upset and you don't want to explain this to me. I'm sorry that I hurt you and I will take time to try and work it out myself, but I may not be able to. And I hope that we can make time to talk about this later when you feel more comfortable, and then fucking go on with your life. Like live with your guilt and you're going to have to, because it's your feeling. Do the thing, right? Think about it, but don't let their silence be punitive. Do not let them punish you. Nobody gets to punish you, and relationships should not be about punishment. Well, I mean, some relationships are about punishment, but that's a different thing. Give them time and space, and know that you don't have to be with someone who refuses to participate in your relationship. It's your job, both of you, to work together on stuff. And yeah, you might have goofed it up, but if they're not willing to let you in, maybe you should both move on, right? If this is a thing that happens regularly. I hope that it isn't something that happens regularly. I hope that this isn't the case for you. Withholding sucks. Being hurt sucks. And I just think it's nicer to be able to just work together and fix things, because shit gets broken a lot. There's a whole other thing here that I didn't talk about because it didn't really come up, and like apologizing for the right reasons. Right. And I think this is something that we're not great at as a human. But the apology should be, I'm apologizing because I hurt you and it's the right thing to do, not I'm apologizing because I want to feel better about what I might have done. Right. I want you to stop admonishing me. I want to stop being chastised. I want to feel like I'm a good person again. Like all of that stuff. Apologies are complicated. We'll do a whole thing about apologizing sometime. But in this case, like, give people space to be upset. It's okay if someone's upset. It's okay if someone's upset with you. Honestly, like that's a big lesson to learn. It's okay if the people you love are like occasionally like mad at you or like bummed out or hurt. That's allowed. It doesn't mean the relationship is fucked. Nothing has to be perfect. Fuck trying to be perfect. Anyway, question number 2 is a really interesting one, and I'm curious to see what y'all think of it and what we can kind of talk about this, because I think it's there's a lot going on here. So Loki, ostensibly not the trickster god, otherwise I feel like this would be a very different question. Loki says, I used to be a sex worker for most of my time as a college student. Now I'm in a romantic relationship that is officially open but practically monogamous. I think a lot of relationships are like that. My partner says if I start doing sex work again, they couldn't be my partner anymore because they would constantly worry. I really enjoyed the job though, and I can't imagine a situation in which I couldn't use the money. The relationship is important to me, but I also feel held back and restricted, and that bugs me. How do I handle this? So, this is a great question. There's so much going on here. So, first of all, this is a question about sex work, which is like a very real and present thing that is all around us all the time, but like hugely, hugely stigmatized, right? Even being able to like talk about this openly is interesting. I think this is a great opportunity. Another thing that I wanted to point out about this, not only is this a question from a person who does or has done sex work, but it's from a male person, right? A male person that is a sex worker, which is like this whole other, even less well understood or visible thing. When we think of sex workers, I'm pretty sure your brain doesn't immediately go to a man, does it? Right? So there's gender stuff here. There's cultural stigma. There's the sort of intersection of Protestant ethic and capitalism. This is a whole fucking thing. It's also a complicated relationship issue because it's about boundaries and money and safety and a bunch of other shit. So, thank you, Loki, for asking this question. I think this is really important to be able to talk about, even if we may not come to like a clear answer. Discussing and talking about and destigmatizing sex work is super important. So, at the core, I feel like this question is about, honestly, what a lot of relationship troubles just kind of come down to, which is to say, like a mismatch of priority. Like, it sounds to me like you had a job you enjoyed and a job that paid you well, and you would like to return to doing that work. Sounds reasonable, right? It sounds to me like your partner has put a real hard boundary between you and that work, right? This is very much what might be phrased as an ultimatum. If you do this, I don't want to be with you. And you know what? That's okay. It's okay to have boundaries like that, right? If you mail my dog to Kentucky, I don't want to be in this relationship with you. If you violate my consent, I don't want to be in a relationship with you. If you are a racist or a homophobe, I don't want to be in a relationship with you. It's okay to have hard boundaries. I don't think that I'm not blaming your partner for that. I think it's a reasonable thing that your partner is doing. But what I'm surprised and a bit like weird on is that this is not a boundary about them. Really. This is a boundary about you. Sort of. So what I hear your partner saying is, if you do this job, then I will worry. And if I worry, I will be unhappy. Ergo, if you do this job, I will break up with you so that I don't have to be unhappy because I am worrying. You see that logic chain, right? Like, you do the sex work, they worry, they're unhappy because of it. And so they want to blame it. They want to blame their worry on your sex work, which, okay. I'm going to just say right off the bat, and this is true for Loki and for Loki's partner and for every other person on the fucking planet Earth. This is my like relationship nihilism coming to play. It is very specifically always 100% of the time okay not to be in a relationship. There is literally no bad reason to stop being with someone. The default state of a human being is to not be in a relationship. And it is always, no matter what, okay to go back there. No one can ever tell you not to not be with someone, not to break up with someone. It is totally okay for whatever reason. And I do not care if the reason is good or bad or big or small. I don't want to be in this relationship is always an okay thing for a person to say. You may not like hearing that. You may think it's bullshit, but it's not. It's never bullshit if someone wants to get out of a relationship. I just wanted to put that out there. So, what I think we do a lot as people is attempt to protect ourselves from emotional challenge, right? Now, I'm not saying that's necessarily what's happening here, but it feels like it's a bit of a cop-out because I feel like there's some work in the middle that your partner is refusing to engage with. Is this the first thing they said when you suggested you might go back to doing sex work? Is this ultimatum the opening line of a conversation, or is this a place that you came together after discussing it? Not feeling anxious is a nice way to live, and if something is causing you anxiety, it's a good call not to have it in your life. But I wonder, why wasn't there a phase of this conversation that was, if you go back to doing sex work, I'm going to worry about you. Can you help equip me with tools to deal with that worry? Like, yes, it's fine to worry about someone's safety, but like, is this the kind of conversation that would happen if you wanted to be a construction worker or like a truck driver? Because those jobs are extremely dangerous, like by the numbers. A lot of people are injured or die in construction work and driving trucks, right? I wonder how much of this is because I think this is a trope, right? There's a trope around, I don't want you to do sex work because I am worried about my own safety by way of you. Is that what's happening, right? Is there some stigma stuff there? Like, how much of this is socially constructed anxiety? not that it ultimately matters, right? They're expressing a boundary and they're giving you an opportunity to choose your path forward. So what I would like I would like to ask you to do is invite this person to be a part of the process of making this decision about your life together. Because if you haven't already had the talk about how you might be able to make them feel safer, how could it be possible for you to continue the relationship, but deal with what seems to be the ultimate problem, their anxiety, not necessarily your safety? Because like, I can say to a person, I don't want you to jump out of that plane. I don't want you to go bungee jumping. I don't want you to become a professional snake handler, because what I'm really saying is because I'm worried that if you get hurt, I will feel bad. Right? So how can you reassure this person? How can the two of you sit down and talk about this stuff? I think the reason why Loki mentioned that the relationship is non-monogamous is because this isn't to explicitly handle the fact that this isn't a jealousy issue. This isn't to like, I don't want you having sex with other people. It's not about that. This is very much about like this person's safety, supposedly, right? Like, I don't want to have to go to your funeral. I don't want you to get an STI and be sick. I don't want you to get hurt. I don't want you to be working and me worrying about you because you work in an industry that is not well supported. You're not very safe, right? Like, what is actually the issue here? And like, sit down and talk about that, because I think there's almost always an element of fear or ignorance that they don't trust you to be doing it safe, right? There's that fear of sitting at home, wondering if you're okay when you're out doing work, and they don't want to be in that scared place. So instead of facing our fears, we often externalize them and make them someone else's responsibility. Your partner might be externalizing that anxiety, making it about your sex work, right? So in this case, instead of talking to you about what might be causing it, they're saying, don't do the thing that makes me feel bad, which sucks. It actually feels a lot like what happens with many couples that are early to doing the non-monogamy thing together. Forcing people to agree to like weird arcane protocols, like only one night a week are you allowed to sleep away from the house we live in. No kissing, but you can have sex with other people. No falling in love. But really all of these are saying, don't do this, because if you do, I'll feel jealous and I don't want to deal with my own jealousy. So what I want for you, Loki, you and your partner, is like a more expansive conversation between the two of you. I want this person to talk to a support network. I want this person to talk to the partners of other sex workers. I want this person to see a sex work positive counselor. I want them to talk to you. I want them to process their feelings and understand where those feelings come from. I want you to do the work and get the money. So in this is not the sole text of the question. Some of it I was asked not to include, but one thing I can tell you contextually is that where Loki is from, sex work and prostitution are not illegal. At least that is what I was told. So legality is not on the table. This is purely about safety, according to their partner. And I want their partner to work together with them. I want him and this person to like work it out, because Loki deserves to do what he wants and to make that money. And I want you not to feel restricted and held back, Loki, because resentment will build out of that and it'll kill a relationship if you don't take care of it, right? What I don't want is for the two of you to stay together, and every time you look at your bank account and you sigh because you don't have as much money as you know that you could have if you were making bank doing something that you like. I don't want that tension. I don't want resentment to breed in your relationship and fuck things up, because it will, just as surely as your partner's anxiety or worry. So I don't know that it's time for you to make the like stay or bail decision yet. I think you should just go to your partner and lay it out. right? Be like, I like doing this work. The money is good. And I want to be with someone who will support me. I hear you that you're feeling anxious. I would like to work together on helping you feel less anxious. And if they're a grown-up and they care about you, they'll at least agree to talk with you and engage, right? They'll put that work in enough to understand that either they're wrong and yeah, they can deal with it, or no, they were right and this is a real boundary and it's untenable. I'm not saying that you need to be like, yo, I'm going to do this and you need to deal with it, but like there's time between not doing it and getting back into it where you can both engage with other people and get external support like you're doing now with me. I would like this to be the start. Let me give you a little push. And if they do that work, they can come back to you and say, you know what? I was right. I just don't feel equipped to do this. And then it's not an ultimatum. It's just them breaking up with you. If it feels to you like they've already made this decision, they've put their foot down, I say, fuck it. Do what you love. Make money. Be proud of the work you do. Be the person you want to be and find somebody else who will be able to deal with it. It doesn't mean your partner is a bad person for not being able to handle it. But it might just be that this relationship isn't a good fit. And that's fine. You're allowed to not be together. Find another way to have that relationship that isn't a threat. Can they not be friends with you because you're a sex worker? In which case, fuck them. Or don't, I guess, unless they pay you. Like there are other ways to have relationships. If they don't want to, if they are worried about your safety as a person, I don't think like dating you or not dating you is going to matter. Think about the ways in which your relationship is bound up in like normative, romantic ownership protocols. Yeah, it's a really weird thing. It's super, super weird. And I think that we devalue sex workers. There is a lot tied up in this whole thing. And I think there's more to it than just internalized sex worker stigma and the idea that this person is saying, I'll worry about you, but maybe meaning I don't like the idea of dating a sex worker for my own reasons and I don't want to seem like a jerk, so I'm going to pretend that it's really about me caring about you and worrying. Like, I don't know this person well enough to know. Maybe they're being legit, but maybe they're not. And there's a ton of complex structural shit around sex work in general that people need to just get the fuck over. So how much of that is at play in your relationship? Only you and this person can work that out. But if you're going to be together and you're going to do sex work, they need to put in work figuring it out. Get their head straight. Today's last question comes to us from Manda. I'll post it in a second. It's a long one. Manda pointed out in her question that she's only 20. She doesn't have a lot of experience, and is struggling a little bit. Let me read the question. So, Manda says, I have this problem. I'm friendly, interesting, easy to get along with, and attractive. You don't have to put the dots there, Manda. You can just say, yo, I'm attractive. It's fine. So friendly, interesting, easy to get along with, and attractive. I consider myself personable and I make friends easily, but the problem lies in keeping relationships in that category. A sizable percentage of my friend group is male, and I've had to romantically reject almost all of them at some point. In some cases, outright rejection on uncomfortably emotional levels, love letters, gifts, intense affection, etc. And I love my friends, I really do, but now I feel like I have to act and talk very carefully around guys so they don't feel like I'm leading them on, which sucks because they're supposed to be my friends. I'm not touchy-feely and I've never had a romantic relationship, nor the desire to start one yet. This attention is making it hard for me to pursue new friendships because I'm starting to think I just don't know how to communicate effectively. So what am I doing wrong? Do I need to distance myself? Start interacting in a different way? Wear a sign that says don't ask. The answer is probably no. It's just that it's It's not even a real problem, but that stage of, oh, fuck, here it comes, just stresses me out so much. I need advice on how to avoid getting to that point. So chat, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. You already know the answer. You already know the answer to this question. So Amanda pointed out in her submission that she's 20, right? Doesn't have a lot of experience, which leads me to assume that she exists in a comparable peer group. I assume Amanda is not hanging out with like 45-year-old men. Not that the answer would change. 20-year-old boys are the fucking worst. Speaking as someone who was, for a time, a 20-year-old boy. At that age and throughout their lives, men are inundated with all kinds of very aggressive signals about how we're supposed to act. There is a prescribed model of masculinity with some very crappy ideas about friendship and romance and how to handle women. We're also in that awkward position where we're not allowed to be boys anymore. But like, no 20-year-old is even remotely equipped to be an adult. In my life, and certainly in the lives of my peers, it seems that there's a secondary adolescence that occurs between being a teenager and being an adult. Like, I can tell you that I did not do anything even remotely useful or mature with my life until like I was at least 25. Now, this isn't to excuse Amanda's friends for, at this point, what is a pretty cliche attitude, but to provide a framework for understanding the expected behaviors of masculinity vis-a-vis women and our relationships to them. A big part of why your life is the way that it is, Amanda, is that your male friends have been taught that having a real relationship with a woman means either having sex with them or being their boyfriend. Those are the two venues available to real men and how they interact with women. Friendship is something that we have with our bros. Friendship is something that we share with other men who we obviously do not have romantic, sexual, or even remotely emotionally intimate relationships with, because that would be gay. It would be very, very gay. And we don't want that, do we? Women are things we are meant to pursue, to obtain, to protect, and to covet. Now, obviously, I'm making like just huge fuck off blanket statements about masculinity. I know this. I'm aware. I'm being intentionally I'm being silly. But I'm also speaking from lived experience, right? Like my life. So while the details may vary from man to man, and I know that there are people who are watching this right now who are 20-year-old men who are like, I'm not like that. Keep being not like that. Please. There's a prevalence of this attitude across the board, basically, for men. Chad is also pointing out, what is manlier than a couple of men together? Nothing. Fucking nothing is manlier than that. But anyway, so this prevalent cultural attitude aimed at predominantly like adolescent or young men is why we hear derision and terms like the friend zone. Because to most dude type people, we are taught that being friends with a woman is a consolation prize at best and a rejection of our masculinity at worst. I've talked about questions like this from a backward angle before, and I'm going to do it again. Before I talk to Amanda about what she could do to navigate the weird attitudes that her male friends have, I want to like take a step back. Amanda, just hang on a second, Amanda. Amanda's friends, I'm talking to you. I mean, not literally, because I don't think they watch the show, but men, adolescent men especially. Gentlemen, we need to start valuing our friendship with women more. We need to start working harder at looking at women as being people worth connecting with, worth being emotionally open with, engaging with them, and not thinking about the trajectory of that friendship. Not only just women, but people of other genders too. People that we may or may not want to have sex with or be in romantic relationships with. If we can start to change the way that we look at friendship, seeing it as something crucial and special and important to us, it will make that friend zone pass turn from a fuck you into a golden ticket. You know how you have that friend that you trust and that you care about and who you know will back you up when you need them most? You know that one friend you have that you always text when you get a promotion at work or when you're feeling shitty and you need somebody to remind you that the world is not a terrible place? You know that one friend that you have and you definitely don't want to fuck? That last bit doesn't invalidate them as your friend, does it? It doesn't mean all the other good shit that you have together is less valid because you don't want to make out with them. I think that if we can manage to look at friendship as a concept being more valuable to us, we can start to appreciate and love our friends better regardless of what their gender is. There is a lot of pressure on young men to fulfill correct behaviors, to have a girlfriend, to be having sex with women. There is a colossal amount of assumption around how a man's life is meant to look and the acceptable ways in which we're able to have feelings about the people in our life. One of these is the unsubtle and frequently awful feeling that if we are friends with a woman, it has to be a stepping stone towards there being something more with that woman, which is so silly. Why is sex or romance more than friendship? Fuck buddies isn't a prestige class, kids. It's multi-classing. Like, I'm not saying we shouldn't want to have sex with people or be in relationships, like romantic relationships. We definitely should. That's okay. It's totally fine. But like, friendship is also incredibly valuable. So you could be like, I'm like a level 10 friend and a level 1 romance person. Or you could be like, I'm a level 3 fuck buddy and a level 1 friend. Like, there's variations. It's not all or nothing. It's not like you have to be their friend, then be in love with them, then have sex. Like, the escalator is bullshit, and it doesn't have to be there unless you want it to be. So let's just try to let our relationships have value and meaning without assuming the future of where they have to go, regardless of the gender of the people that we are with, right? This isn't at all to say that it isn't cool to smooch the people that we like, but let's not treat women like prizes to be won. This isn't to say that mushy, lovey bullshit can't also be cool. But as far as our relationships with women go, these are not the only real interactions we can have with them. So let's be friends with women. Let's be friends with non-binary people. It seems like a fucking reasonable thing to ask, but I understand, 20-year-old men, that you are in a place where you are being told very specifically how to behave. And if you do not behave that way, you can face admonishment and social exile and being called a gay. And that can hurt. I get it. As a closeted queer person at the age of 20, I understand. Like, I have been susceptible to and harmed by these expected behaviors myself. I get it. I feel you. I was a 20-year-old boy at one point too. It sucks. The reason that I wanted to kind of come at this from this angle is that Manda having to ask this question, and in the way that Manda asked this, it kind of breaks my heart. You know, this is like if a gay person asked me, like, how do I handle my homophobic friends saying homophobic shit around me all the time? Or a person of color saying, like, what do I do to help my racist friends stop using the N-word around me? Or, like, insert any other racial slur that white people use without thinking, even around people of color. Right? This sucks. This question fucking sucks because the power structures are flipped. Manda asking me, what am I doing wrong? It's bad. This is bad that Manda has to feel this way. The people here who need to change their behavior are not you, Manda. They're not. They're really, really not. This isn't even to say that your friends are like shitty people. They're probably not bad people. They're not even realizing, most likely, what's going on that's making you so uncomfortable, but it's not your fucking job to make this better. I'm sorry that you're in this place and that it is stressing you out and that this is happening. I'm sorry these dudes are trying to get all up in your business when you don't want them to be, and they're not just appreciating being friends with you because you seem rad. And it's really important for me not to dismiss this concern outright by just being like, they'll grow out of it. Boys will be boys. But Jesus Christ, time does a number on this stuff. Time and experience, but you don't have that. You're 20 and they're 20 and you can't fast forward them. So I don't have any personal advice or like tactics for you, Manda, because I'm a man. I was not in your position. I don't have the personal tools to deal with that shit. I think that sharing your experiences with other women and having support networks to help you through when things are hard is so, so important. And anyone who dismisses your concern or tells you shit like boys will be boys or like just deal with it or don't complain because at least they're paying attention to you, those people are not going to help you. Do not listen to that. It is not your job to change. You keep being you. It is not your job to forge these dudes into better men by holding their hands through it or taking it easy on them, right? Don't go easy on them. Be firm about what you want and do not want. Say no when you mean no. Don't let anyone tell you that you're leading anyone on. Be real with yourself, right? Act in good faith. Remember, you never have to say yes to anything you don't want. And like, remember, people will tell you that being a teenager is hard, but I think whatever weird, fucked up, post-teenage, early 20s life phase we need a name for, I think that's the hardest part of any person's life. God knows it was for me. Like, it sucked being a teenager, but it was really the fucking worst from like 20 to 25. I mean, that's in my personal experience. You may have an easier time of it as you go through this, but I'm really glad that you reached out. And while I know I don't have the tools to give you to like protect you from this, what I hope I can do is encourage you to find other people you can trust who have experiences that they can share with you. I want you to keep yourself safe, right? I want you to do what feels right for you. And I want you to know that you don't have to second guess shit just because the men around you always want to take it to the sexy place. What my responsibility is here, particularly as a person with a platform, as a man, as someone that other men ostensibly will have an easier time listening to, my responsibility is to help make them better. That is my job, not yours, Amanda. That is my job and the job of every other male person to do better at being a man and to encourage other men to be better at it. That is our job because we have the power to protect ourselves from that behavior because we don't have that stuff to deal with that you do. So you take care of you and I will try to work on them, these men. And hell, next time somebody asks you out and you just want to be friends, fuck it, send them my way. I'll set them straight. Speaking of which, all of this whole fucking thing, this whole question, I acknowledge that it's very, very heterocentric, right? It doesn't even begin to touch on the complexity of being non-binary, being trans, any variety of queerness as part of this equation. This was very much straight people talk, which is a language that I learned. It's common. I got it as part of character creation. But that's a topic for a whole other show. The ways in which those things intersect with this thing. But I just want to be clear, like, Amanda, I want a shirt that says Amanda did nothing wrong, because just it'll be okay. Just hold on. So that's it for today's episode. That's episode number 16 of Hot for Teacher. Thank you so much for coming, everybody. If you have questions for Professore, you can get on board by going to my website, www.adam-coble.com. Click on the little Hot for Teacher link. There's a form there. You can fill it out. You can let me know your name. You don't have to. It's up to you. Go ahead and submit it. I will add it to the list, and we'll answer these. We'll answer these bi-weekly or semi-weekly. I can never remember which. Anyway, thanks for coming, everybody. This has been episode 16 of Hot for Teacher. You're the best. We'll see you next time.